Stephen A. Smith calling Kawhi the worst superstar ever.
That's the Kawhi Leonard I know. Doing nothing and getting paid for it.
To Kendrick Perkins calling out Kawhi's sneaky behavior.
And he's a guy that flies under the radar, that has been doing sneaky stuff, been getting catered to, and just because he's quiet, we don't address him.
Here's what the NBA world really thinks about Kawhi Leonard's $28 million fraud scandal. Kendrick Perkins. When it comes to finding someone willing to throw verbal haymakers at NBA superstars, few do it with more passion and conviction than Kendrick Perkins. The former Boston Celtics and Oklahoma City Thunder center has built a second career as one of ESPN's most outspoken analysts, never shying away from controversial takes or heated debates. So when the Kawhi Leonard scandal broke, many expected Perkins to come out swinging with both fists, ready to tear down another superstar who appeared to have gamed the system. Instead, what we witnessed was something completely unexpected, almost uncharacteristic from the normally fiery commentator. Perkins appeared on ESPN's Get Up on September 7th, 2025, and delivered a passionate defense of Leonard that surprised viewers and fellow analysts alike. The NBA world is overreacting. Kawhi is not the villain in this story. The Clippers are the ones who should be held accountable. But Perkins didn't stop there. His defense of Leonard went deeper than just this singular incident, touching on what he sees as a pattern of successful players being targeted for arrangements that have become commonplace in professional sports. Perkins emphasized on First Take.
Nothing in this world, when you're being successful, and it goes to show you that billionaires cut side deals in whatever they do. Billionaires have under the table shit going on every single day. That's how they get ahead.
This stance represents a remarkable evolution for Perkins, who has not always been Leonard's biggest supporter. In fact, Perkins previously called Leonard a snake in 2021 over his controversial exit from the San Antonio Spurs and the injury disputes that surrounded it. More recently, Perkins had suggested that Leonard should consider retirement in 2024 due to his chronic injury issues, a statement that drew significant backlash from other players and analysts. Yet here we see Perkins taking a completely different approach, one that focuses on systemic issues rather than individual culpability. His prediction regarding the outcome of the investigation is telling. He believes Leonard will face minimal punishment, perhaps avoiding contract voiding entirely, while the Clippers organization will bear the brunt of any penalties through substantial fines. This perspective reflects Perkins' belief that Leonard was merely a beneficiary of an owner-driven retention strategy rather than an active architect of any wrongdoing. What makes Perkins' defense particularly compelling is his acknowledgement of Leonard's injury history while simultaneously defending the legitimacy of earning compensation despite physical limitations. In his passionate defense on First Take, Perkins emphasized,
"We have been letting him off the hook for too long, and he's a guy that flies under the radar, that has been doing sneaky stuff, been getting catered to, and just because he's quiet, we don't address him."
Richard Jefferson. If there's anyone in the basketball media landscape who understands the intricate dance between players, agents, and team executives when it comes to creative compensation arrangements, it's Richard Jefferson. The former forward spent 17 years in the NBA, playing for teams including the Brooklyn Nets, Dallas Mavericks, and San Antonio Spurs, giving him a front row seat to witness how the business of basketball really operates behind closed doors. When Jefferson appeared on both ESPN's Get Up and his own Road Trippin' podcast in the days following the scandal's revelation, his perspective was notably different from many of his media colleagues. Jefferson's reaction on the Road Trippin' podcast was telling.
Who's snitching? The reporter? The reporter's job is to snitch. Our job is to keep it quiet, right? Like, Ballmer didn't tell, Kawhi didn't tell, so Pablo's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's doing an absolute great job. Shout him out for this investigation, right?
Jefferson's analysis went beyond just defending Leonard or attacking the reporting. Instead, he provided crucial context that many observers were missing. He explained on the podcast,
I would do it in a heartbeat if I was Kawhi Leonard. What? I would do it in a heartbeat.
This candid admission revealed the mindset that many players likely share. When presented with additional compensation opportunities, especially those that appear legitimate on the surface, few would turn them down. But Jefferson's most valuable contribution to the discourse came through his historical perspective. He detailed how such arrangements are normalized in professional sports.
When you talk about players, they always like, oh, we'll give you a front office position, we're gonna give you this, and we'll make you an ambassador, right? Like this is what what a lot of these players are offered, especially later in their career.
Jefferson's analysis becomes even more credible when we consider his own relationship with Leonard. The two were briefly teammates during Jefferson's stint with the San Antonio Spurs, overlapping during the 2015-16 season. This personal connection gives Jefferson unique insight into Leonard's character and approach to the business side of basketball. What makes Jefferson's perspective particularly compelling is how it balances empathy for Leonard's situation with a clear-eyed assessment of the potential consequences. While he's defended Leonard against previous retirement calls, including slamming Stephen A. Smith in April 2023 for suggesting Leonard should hang up his sneakers, Jefferson also acknowledges that this scandal deserves serious investigation. His prediction for the outcome reflects his insider knowledge. He expects the investigation to focus primarily on the franchise level, with potential fines and penalties targeting the Clippers organization rather than Leonard personally. Jeff Teague, former Atlanta Hawks, Indiana Pacers, and Minnesota Timberwolves point guard Jeff Teague has carved out a distinctive niche in the post-playing career media landscape with his Club 520 Inches podcast. Known for his unfiltered takes and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, Teague didn't hold back when addressing the Leonard scandal during his show's September 3rd and 4th episodes. Teague's immediate reaction was one of shock and suspicion. In fact, Teague has been consistently vocal about his belief that Russell Westbrook's career achievements surpassed Leonard's, often arguing that Leonard never was the best player in the league and questioning whether he would have thrived in different situations. This backdrop makes his reaction to the scandal all the more significant. He's not defending Leonard out of any particular loyalty or admiration. Teague's analysis of the situation focused heavily on the organization's culpability. His perspective reflects a pragmatic understanding of how business is conducted in professional sports, while simultaneously expressing concern about the ethical implications. What sets Teague apart from some of the other commentators is his willingness to acknowledge the broader context of Leonard's career struggles. While he's been critical of Leonard's injury management and availability, he's also recognized the legitimate challenges that have plagued the star forward, noting how injuries have consistently held him back from reaching his full potential. Teague's prediction for the investigation's outcome reveals his skepticism about the NBA's willingness or ability to impose truly severe penalties. His commentary suggested that while the optics are terrible, the league's response might be more measured than some expect, stating,
"I'm gonna drop it down on this."
The NBA probably gonna get ahead of this though.
That's weak.
Yeah.
This reflects his understanding of how the league typically handles such controversies, with an eye toward damage control rather than setting harsh precedents. The former point guard's analysis also touched on the broader implications for competitive balance in the NBA. His concern about whether this represents systemic cheating rather than an isolated incident speaks to larger questions about how big market teams like the Clippers might be gaining unfair advantages through creative financing arrangements that smaller market teams simply cannot match. Quentin Richardson. Few voices in the basketball media landscape bring the perspective of someone who actually wore a Clippers jersey during the organization's leaner years, quite like Quentin Richardson. The former guard, who played for the Clippers during the early 2000s as part of his 13-year NBA career, co-hosts the Players' Choice podcast alongside Darius Miles, and his reaction to the Leonard scandal was swift, decisive, and unequivocally supportive of the embattled superstar. Richardson's immediate response on the September 3rd episode of his podcast was one of disbelief and deflection, stating emphatically, "This reaction is particularly telling because it reflects the perspective of someone who understands both the Clippers organization from the inside and the broader ecosystem of NBA player endorsements and side deals." Richardson's defense of Leonard goes beyond just this particular incident. He's been consistently supportive of Leonard throughout various controversies, including the debates over whether the Toronto Raptors should retire Leonard's jersey following his championship-winning 2019 season. In those discussions, Richardson famously likened Leonard to Neo from The Matrix, emphasizing his almost supernatural ability to perform in clutch moments. What makes Richardson's perspective particularly valuable is his insider knowledge of how endorsement deals typically work in professional sports. His analysis of the situation focused heavily on the fraudulent nature of aspiration itself, labeling the entire scheme as insane, while simultaneously defending such endorsement arrangements as standard practice in the league. This nuanced take reflects his understanding that the problem isn't necessarily with Leonard accepting money for promotional work, but rather with the company's underlying fraudulent operations. Darius Miles. Darius Miles brings a particularly unique perspective to the Leonard scandal discussion as another former Clippers player who understands both the organization's culture and the broader landscape of NBA business practices. Playing for the Clippers during the early 2000s alongside Richardson, Miles has maintained a connection to the franchise that colors his analysis of the current controversy. Miles's reaction on the Players' Choice podcast was both pragmatic and concerned, stating, "A $28 million no-show job? Players get these, but tying it to a fraudulent tree company, that's next-level shady. NBA needs to investigate deep." This response encapsulates what makes Miles's perspective so valuable. He acknowledges that such arrangements exist throughout the league, while simultaneously recognizing that the fraudulent element elevates this situation to an entirely different level. Miles's analysis of the situation reflects his understanding of how the modern NBA operates. He's previously praised the Clippers' resilience during Leonard's injury-related absences, demonstrating his appreciation for both the organization's patience with their star player and Leonard's value when healthy. This context makes his concern about the scandal's implications all the more significant. What sets Miles apart from some other commentators is his focus on the environmental and ethical dimensions of the scandal. His commentary highlighted the irony of eco-fraud in a league that has been pushing sustainability initiatives, noting how the tree planting company's fraudulent operations undermine legitimate environmental efforts. This perspective adds another layer to the scandal's implications beyond just salary cap circumvention. Miles's prediction for the investigation's outcome aligns closely with his co-host Richardson's assessment. He expects the NBA to conduct a thorough investigation that focuses primarily on the ownership and management level, with Leonard potentially emerging as more of a victim than a perpetrator. His emphasis on the need for deep investigation reflects his belief that this scandal requires serious scrutiny, but not necessarily punishment for Leonard personally. The former forward's approach to Leonard as a person and player has been notably positive throughout various controversies. Rather than questioning Leonard's character or commitment, Miles has consistently attributed any issues to external factors or circumstances beyond the player's control. This pattern continues with his analysis of the current scandal, where he views Leonard's involvement as potentially unwitting rather than malicious. Patrick Beverly. When it comes to defending Kawhi Leonard, few voices carry more weight or authenticity than Patrick Beverly. The former Clippers guard spent several seasons as Leonard's teammate from 2019 to 2023, giving him an intimate, behind-the-scenes perspective on Leonard's character, work ethic, and approach to the game that outsiders simply cannot match. Beverly's response to the scandal on his Pat Bev podcast was both passionate and personal.
On the court, it's Kawhi. Together, weight room and court, Kawhi. I ain't seen nobody like him.
So for all you at home and everybody questions because he's hurt a lot.
That's why he hurt.
From the source that the man is the hardest.
This wasn't just a casual defense of a former teammate. It was a detailed character witness from someone who had observed Leonard's daily routine and professional approach firsthand. What makes Beverly's testimony so compelling is the specific details he provides about Leonard's work ethic. His podcast included vivid descriptions of Leonard's training regimen, recounting how he drove to San Diego during the COVID shutdown, specifically to witness Leonard's workout routine.
Man, we in that lab 3 hours. I'm talking about 9 spots. 11 spots. Damn, I ain't never shot 11 spots.
Beverly's defense goes far beyond just this scandal, extending to a broader pushback against narratives that portray Leonard as lazy or uncommitted. The former guard's perspective on Leonard's injuries is particularly telling. Rather than viewing Leonard's physical problems as character flaws, Beverly suggests they result from excessive dedication.
But that's why he be hurt. That's what people don't understand. That's why the be hurt. Okay, man, you gotta relax, man. Nah.
Beverly's loyalty to Leonard extends well beyond their playing days together. He shared numerous anecdotes about maintaining their friendship post-retirement, including claims that Leonard texts him regularly to discuss the state of the NBA. Beverly has also been vocal about Leonard's recovery process, stating in December 2024 that he's healing like a foo *****ing machine, and suggesting that the Clippers made mistakes in their recent trades. What makes Beverly's defense particularly powerful is his credibility as someone who has never been afraid to criticize teammates or organizations when he feels it's warranted. His willingness to speak out about various issues throughout his career makes his passionate defense of Leonard all the more meaningful. When someone known for his honesty and direct communication style goes to such lengths to defend a former teammate's character, it carries significant weight. Beverly's prediction for how Leonard will emerge from this scandal reflects his deep personal knowledge of the player's character. He implies that Leonard was likely unaware of any fraudulent aspects of the aspiration deal, focusing instead on Leonard's ongoing recovery process process and preparation for future seasons. This perspective positions Leonard as someone who was potentially taken advantage of, rather than someone who actively participated in any wrongdoing. Stephen A. Smith. The ESPN analyst has never been one to mince words, and his reaction to the Leonard scandal was characteristically blunt and unforgiving. Smith's response on First Take was scathing and comprehensive.
This is a man that did New Balance commercials, and the kids spoke, Molly. The kids. He didn't say a word. I've seen them go up to him and need him to sign autographs and fraternize with the public when he was sitting behind on the bench collecting about $40+ million, and he wouldn't do it. So he has spent years doing absolutely, positively nothing.
What makes Smith's criticism particularly stinging is how he connects this scandal to a broader pattern of behavior that he's been highlighting for years. Smith's analysis goes far beyond just this single incident, positioning it instead as the culmination of what he sees as Leonard's career-long approach to maximizing compensation while minimizing effort. His commentary included specific examples of Leonard's perceived disengagement, noting how Leonard says nothing in press conferences and wouldn't sign autographs while sitting behind his behind on a bench collecting about $40+ million. What makes Smith's perspective particularly significant is his historical consistency in criticizing Leonard. He previously demanded that Leonard retire in April 2023, and he's repeatedly called Leonard the worst superstar in sports history due to his injury management and public engagement issues. This scandal, in Smith's view, represents the perfect storm of Leonard's apparent disengagement meeting financial opportunity. Smith's most damning assessment came when he directly connected the scandal to Leonard's character, stating,
when I saw this report and it said money for doing nothing, I said, because if there's a way for this brother to get money guaranteed without working, that's what that brother has done.
The longtime ESPN personality's prediction for the investigation's outcome reflects his belief that this scandal will have lasting implications for Leonard's legacy and reputation. Unlike many other commentators who focus primarily on potential organizational penalties, Smith expects severe scrutiny of Leonard personally. He anticipates that this controversy will provide ammunition for years of future criticism, potentially damaging Leonard's standing among fans and peers who may begin to question his commitment and integrity. Smith's analysis also includes pointed criticism of the broader system that allows such arrangements to exist. His commentary suggested that Leonard has spent his career being catered to and receiving special treatment that other players don't enjoy. This perspective reflects Smith's broader concerns about star player privilege and the lengths that organizations will go to accommodate elite talent. What makes Smith's criticism particularly harsh is his acknowledgement of Leonard's talent while simultaneously arguing that this makes his behavior even more inexcusable. He explicitly stated on First Take,
this brother is a two-time champion, two-time NBA Finals MVP, okay? He can ball, doesn't shrink beneath the spotlight or the pressure. This is in no way questioning his greatness as a basketball player. But I have stated this on many occasions. He is the worst superstar I have ever seen in sports. Worst and superstar being the operative words. No denying he's a superstar. But I have never seen a superstar do less to market and promote his team or promote the brand.
Mark Cuban, the owner's perspective. Mark Cuban's involvement in the Leonard scandal discussion brings a unique and particularly credible perspective to the debate, that of a former NBA owner who understands both the business pressures that drive such arrangements and the potential consequences for crossing the line into salary cap circumvention. Cuban's defense of Steve Ballmer and the Clippers became one of the most talked about aspects of the entire controversy.
Right, but at the same time, almost infantilizing Steve Ballmer is like, he was a victim, he got taken advantage of. Well, these guys are scammers, of course. Why would they do this? Oh, they're scammers. This is what I know about scammers and really most criminal enterprises. The goal is to make money. So if my goal is to scam people to make money, yes, I'll pay Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes, I'll pay Drake. Yes, I'll pay Robert Downey Jr. because they're going to go out and spread the gospel and bring me more money. Why would I pay $28 million to a guy who's not even the most famous dude in his sport, who's notoriously a recluse, who's not going to do anything for me?
What made Cuban's intervention so significant was his willingness to essentially vouch for a rival owner's character and business acumen. Cuban's defense of Ballmer was rooted in his personal experience with similar fraudulent schemes.
Well, except Ballmer kept saying to Ramona Shelburne there, we know the rules, they know the rules. Okay, man. They know the rules, except Uncle Dennis keeps asking for things that are against the rules, and you know the rules, but You got tagged for this in the past already with that Lexus deal. So who cares that you know the rules and they know the rules? But back to the Cuban thing real quick. Cuban's whole MO the whole time as to why he's Team Bomber was because, like, Pablo kept stating his reporting in what is believed to be fact through his reporting, and Cuban's response every time was just, I don't believe Bomber's dumb enough to fall for this. And Cuban then went over an old email that Aspiration sent him at the time, wanting him to be an investor. And Cuban specifically says the reason he didn't go along with it was because it was really aggressive and the money raised several red flags. Why Bomber go along with it then?
This personal anecdote served to both validate the fraudulent nature of Aspiration's operations while simultaneously questioning how Ballmer could have fallen for what Cuban claims he easily identified as suspicious. What makes Cuban's perspective particularly compelling is his frank acknowledgement of the competitive dynamics involved.
Dude, it was so crazy to hear Mark Cuban make points that were actively working against his argument, right? When he said that, I'm like, do you realize what you're saying? You said Steve Ballmer is, he's too smart to fall for that kind of thing or to do that kind of thing. And then you're telling me that these people that you sniffed out within one email, Steve Ballmer with the full distance with? Come on.
This honest assessment reflects the reality that team owners are constantly looking for competitive advantages within the bounds of league rules. Cuban's prediction for the investigation's outcome was notably stark and severe. It's far worse than Joe Smith. He's toast. It's over for Clippers leadership, predicting severe penalties, including potentially lost assets. This assessment carries particular weight given Cuban's intimate knowledge of how the NBA typically handles such violations. The former Mavericks owner's approach to Leonard personally has been notably neutral, focusing his analysis on the fraud allegations against Aspiration rather than questioning Leonard's character or decision-making. His emphasis on describing Aspiration's operations as an external scam suggests he views Leonard as a victim rather than a perpetrator. This perspective aligns with his broader theme of owner solidarity and his belief that sophisticated businessmen like Ballmer wouldn't intentionally jeopardize their franchises. Mark Stein. Mark Stein brings a unique perspective to the Leonard scandal as one of the NBA's most well-connected and respected reporters. His analysis, delivered through the Stein Line podcast and various media appearances, focuses heavily on the political and procedural aspects of how the investigation will unfold within the broader context of NBA governance and owner relations. The Clippers' fate hinges on the 29 other owners. Their reactions could drive the league's decision, represent Stein's most significant contribution to the discourse. This perspective is particularly valuable because it shifts focus from the technical aspects of salary cap violations to the political realities of how punishment decisions are actually made within the NBA's governance structure. What makes Stein's analysis particularly compelling is his understanding of how competitive jealousy among owners might influence the investigation's outcome. His reporting suggests that rival owners' desire to prevent future similar schemes could push them to demand harsh penalties, even if the evidence isn't completely definitive. This insight reveals how investigations like this often become as much about setting precedents as they are about punishing specific violations. Stein's approach to the technical aspects of the case has been notably careful and measured. His reporting acknowledges Ballmer's investment in Aspiration while noting the Clippers' claims that it was unrelated to Leonard's endorsement deal, demonstrating his commitment to presenting multiple perspectives rather than rushing to judgment. This balanced approach reflects his reputation as a journalist who prioritizes accuracy over sensationalism. The veteran reporter's prediction for the investigation's outcome focuses heavily on the broader implications for NBA governance and competitive balance. His analysis suggests that the probe could expand beyond just the Leonard situation if other owners push for a comprehensive review of similar endorsement deals throughout the league. This perspective highlights how individual scandals can sometimes catalyze broader systemic changes. Bobby Marks. When it comes to understanding the intricate details of NBA salary cap rules and potential violations, few voices carry more authority than Bobby Marks. The former Brooklyn Nets front office executive turned ESPN analyst brings unparalleled technical expertise to his analysis of the Leonard scandal, focusing on the specific mechanisms through which salary cap circumvention might have occurred and what precedents exist for league punishment.
The league will hire an outside law firm. The law firm, it's basically if you're being investigated by the Department of Justice or the FBI or the government, they'll come in and basically seize all your electronics. They'll do a forensic investigation as far as the paperwork trail. They'll look at all your finances here.
This detailed explanation provides crucial context for understanding how such investigations typically unfold and what evidence investigators will be seeking. What makes Marks's perspective particularly valuable is his personal experience with salary cap circumvention investigations.
Andre Karolinko in Brooklyn, we signed him to a three-year, $10 million contract. I think at the time it was the tax ML, which, and why we were investigated, A, we had a Russian owner, and B, that Karolinko had declined a $10 million player option here, and that basically set off the alarms here.
This firsthand experience gives his analysis particular credibility and insight. Marks's technical breakdown of the Leonard situation focuses heavily on the evidentiary requirements for proving salary cap circumvention.
However, this is what I will say. Optics and what you are convicted of and what the league finds are two totally different things here. Unless there is a paper trail, and a paper trail does not consist of 7 former workers who are masked behind one of those devices that disguises your voice, that doesn't count. You are going to need to show a paper trail of evidence in that the money that Steve Ballmer paid for this startup company went into Kawhi Leonard's pocket directly.
The former executive's prediction for the investigation's outcome reflects his understanding of both the technical requirements for proving violations and the practical realities of NBA politics. Marks's analysis also includes valuable historical context about previous salary cap violations and their consequences.
If any of you were around in 2000 for the Joe Smith situation in Minnesota, and that was, I think it was 2000, maybe late 90s, Kevin McHale and Glenn Taylor got suspended a year. They got docked 5 first-round picks. Eventually came out to 3. It's basically the equivalent of the death penalty.
This historical precedent suggests that severe violations can result in truly devastating consequences for franchises. What sets Marks apart from other commentators is his ability to separate the technical aspects of salary cap compliance from the broader political and personal dimensions of the scandal. His focus on the specific financial mechanisms and evidentiary requirements reflects his expertise in these areas while avoiding speculation about personal motivations or character assessments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.